This is Tate Lane. On February 27, 2012, Tate Lane walked into the cafeteria at Chardon High School, armed with a .22 caliber handgun. He opened fire on a group of students, killing 3, Daniel Parmenter, Russell King Jr., and Demetrius Hewlin, and injuring 3 others. Lane then fled the scene but was apprehended a short time later by police. Tate Lane's motive for the shooting remains unclear, although it was speculated that he targeted the students due to bullying or a personal vendetta. He also reportedly had a troubled history, including a difficult childhood and a family history of mental illness.
You're really lucky there's so many police in this room right now. You could smile all you want.
During his trial, Lane showed no remorse for his actions and was described as cold and emotionless, and smiles at victims' families in court. Lane arrived at his sentencing hearing wearing a blue button-down shirt. After he sat down, he unbuttoned the shirt to reveal a white t-shirt with the word killer. In March 2013, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is Antonio Barbeua. On April 15, 2012, Antonio was convicted for the murder of his 78-year-old grandmother in a sudden attack where he used a hatchet. He had visited Barbara Olson's house with his friend Nathan with the intention of stealing money. However, they brutally assaulted Barbara Olson with a hatchet and a hammer, shocking the entire community with their merciless actions. It is a tragic event when anyone loses their life, but it is even more distressing when the victim is a family member. Antonio and Nathan had been friends since elementary school and lived in the same neighborhood. Both boys had difficult upbringings and had experienced a lot of trauma in their young lives. When Antonio was sentenced, he was given a chance to read out his statement, but he was too emotional to finish it. He burst into tears while speaking as the severity of his punishment dawned on him. He was unable to keep going and his attorney stepped in and read the statement on his behalf, who also got tearful while doing so. Antonio and Nathan both pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is Alex and Dereck King. On November 26, 2001, the brothers took the life of their own father, Terry King. The 2 boys beat their father with an aluminum baseball bat and then set fire to the family home in Cantonment, Florida. A family friend named Ricky Chavez was also convicted for being an accessory to the crime as he hid the boys in his trailer. Terry was 40 years old at the time of his death. The 2 boys claimed that they did this to put an end to the mental abuse that they had suffered at the hands of their father. According to them, he would stare them down and spank them. The boys calmly testified in court and during sentencing that they stood still expressionless, with their heads down. In 2002, the King brothers were convicted. Dereck King was sentenced to 8 years in prison, while Alex received a 7-year sentence. At the age of 18, Alex was released after serving 6 years, and Dereck would be released in March of 2009, at the age of 20. This is Philp Chislm. Philp Chislm was sentenced to life in prison for committing atrocious acts. He not only assaulted, but also took the life of his own math teacher, Colleen Ritzer. Colleen Ritzer was a teacher at Denver High School, who tragically lost her life at the hands of her own student. Chislm followed Ritzer into a bathroom after school hours and killed her by slashing her throat with a box cutter. Chislm was later found guilty of first-degree murder, rape, and armed robbery. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is Lionel Tate. In 1999, Tate was left alone with his 6-year-old cousin, Tiffany Unick, while his mother went out to run errands. During this time, Tiffany suffered severe injuries, including a fractured skull and lacerations to her liver and ribcage. Tate initially claimed that Tiffany's injuries were the result of accidental roughhousing, but the evidence suggested that he had actually beaten her to death. Despite this, Tate was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During his trial, Tate's behavior and demeanor in court were highly scrutinized by the media and the public. Some of his actions were seen as disrespectful, while others were interpreted as a sign of his youth and lack of understanding of the severity of his situation. In 2004, Tate's sentence was eventually overturned on the grounds that his defense was inadequate and that he had not received a fair trial. In a second trial, Tate was again convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison, but this sentence was later reduced to 10 years of probation.